Welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm Darleen, and my special guest is Audra King, and hopefully I've said that right. She'll correct me if not.
Yes, yes.
From She Loves Her Biz. Now, Audra King, who has a master's in education, is a lifelong creative who is obsessed with making business building easier and accessible. She has built a successful business by constantly asking herself and her clients, how can we make this feel fully aligned and fun? Oh, I love this. Instead of focusing solely on making money, I focus on helping like-minded clients build an online business they love and that supports their lifestyle while also making them feel good about where their energy is going. Now, in 2020, Audra decided to follow her own heart and implement the mantra of follow my fun in my business, and she hasn't looked back. So welcome so much, Audra.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And today we're actually going to talk about following how to follow fun for creatives. And of course,
Yeah.
I'm really excited because, that's me. Hello.
Right. Yeah, well, I love the intro that you gave because it touches on a few pieces of my story. But I would love to
Mm.
provide a little context
Yes.
for my own journey and following the fun because I think it's always best to speak from our own experience when we can. So, I kind of followed the American dream path where I went to college, I got married, I bought a house, I went back and got a teaching degree. And at some point, I realized this is not how I want to be spending my time. I loved teaching, but there were also some big challenges there as well. So when I decided to start a family, I decided to shift what I was doing and did some freelancing, designing workbooks for content and course creators, that kind of thing. And then eventually realized that I loved the strategy and the big picture thinking in business building. And so learned a lot about business, but also there was this little voice that was like the creative, artsy side of me that was like, don't forget about me.
Yeah.
And so in 2020, things kind of came to a head because I had been dabbling in all sorts of different ways of doing business, different offers, and then realized that I wasn't having fun anymore. And I had left teaching really, I didn't have the words for it yet, but really out of the sense of I need to follow the fun in my life. I
Mm.
need to build something that I look forward to doing every
Mm.
day. And so there was an aha moment for me in 2020, and I was like, all right, I'm committing myself to this idea and exploring what that can look like. And for me, I find doing this kind of work with other people really helps me maintain my focus and my energy around an idea like that. So I had a small group of business friends where I was like, hey, if you're into it, let's maybe explore what it would look like to have more fun in our business. So we had a little mastermind, and out of that came whole workshops and programs that I now offer around following the fun. But even on that journey that's now been about 3 years building the follow the fun framework and my business around this idea, I always have to circle back to that creative piece because while I love business and business building, I'm also an artist. And it took a while to claim that label because I didn't go to school for art. I have an agency that builds website and brands, but I didn't go to school for any of it. And so there's always that, for me anyways, that little piece that's like, are you legitimate?
Mm.
Can you call yourself this
Mhm.
thing? But I'm learning to embrace that there's so many ways to come into a creative path and to build a creative business. So for me, following the fun really looks at all different parts of our lives and business because I feel like those two things can't be separated. And I used to think that they could be there was the business side and then there was the doing life side. But I've come to realize that that's not true. We have to build whole picture lives and businesses, and that our business should serve the life that we want to live, not the other way around. And so sometimes creatives that I work with, and even in my own experience, we build businesses because we think that's what people will buy, or we have to follow this idea or this thing that we saw a webinar around. But I think this speaks to what you do, Darlene, too, as far as like following your intuition.
Mhm.
I think that's where the magic happens. But sometimes it's really helpful to have a bit of a guideline, or I like to think of them as like signposts along the way to say, like, is this fun? Like reminders, like this should be fun,
Mhm.
whether that's a person or a program or even a creative practice that helps you tap into that.
Mm.
I'm curious, like, what your experience has been with following the FUD, right? Like, does that resonate for you?
I was actually about to say that because there's so much that resonates with me. I didn't go to art school either. I haven't got any
Mhm.
degrees in art or anything at all. And so it took me ages to find a technique I loved. Now, this one is called acrylic pouring, no control. There is no
Mhm.
control at all. And so I'd been in the healthcare field for 30 years. Control. Everything was control, even in chaos.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
learning this and then realizing that actually I am an artist, because you don't have to be a traditional artist to be an artist.
Mhm.
And that was a big thing for me to really embrace the fact and turn around and go, you know what? And that's why on here I've got artist as well, because I am an artist. And it's just
Yeah.
amazing. And following the fun, oh yes, that's actually one of my little mini sessions is actually make friends with social media.
Mm.
About, making friends with it and having fun. And yeah, having fun is so, so important. I know that when I'm not having fun in life, that translates into business, because
Yeah.
right. Everything that we do in life affects our business, because they are, we burst it. It's got an energy, and we need to
Yeah.
really, embrace that energy and go, you know what, I'm going to love you and let's have some fun.
Well, and I think especially with social media, there are so many shoulds out
Mhm.
there, and people get really almost paralyzed with
Mhm.
like, well, I should do this and I have to
Mhm.
do that. And like, if I don't do it this way, it's not going to work for me.
Mhm.
But I think that there's as many ways to build a
Mhm.
successful business or a successful art practice,
Mhm.
whatever it is that you're trying to work towards,
Mhm.
as there are people and creatives and ideas in the world. And
Mhm.
so that's something that I completely reject, the idea that you have to do anything a certain way, because
Mhm.
what I like an aha moment for me was that, of course, it's helpful to have mentors, to have people who have walked
Mhm.
a path that you're interested in walking before, that can help with perspective and techniques and such. But I would get really frustrated sometimes if I took a course and tried to implement it and it
Mhm.
didn't work for me the way that the person who was teaching it
Mhm.
said that it would. And this happened a number of times, and
Mhm.
finally I realized, well, it's great to take what you can and like
Mhm.
build pieces and like bring things into your business model, but ultimately the successful business for you is going to be your
Mhm.
version of a successful business, and it's not
Mhm.
going to look like anybody else's business. There are no cookie cutter businesses.
Mhm. Yes.
Maybe if you have a franchise, but even then, I think everyone's going to
Mhm.
put their own spin on
Mhm.
things and figure out what works in their market and with
Mhm.
their clients and what they want to offer and how they want to live their life. Something that I talk a lot about is really about how we spend our time in both our life and business. And I've put some things in place in my business that people from the outside might say, there's no way you can do that. Like, I don't do any calls the last week of the month, and I'm a business coach and a consultant, and I have a lot of calls on my schedule. But I block off the last week of the month from calls because I know I need that space. And sometimes I use that space to travel. Sometimes I use that space to create something in my business that needs that really deep dive focused attention. Sometimes I just use it to take a break and relax a little bit. But there are so many people who would think, well, you have to keep those those times available, or people won't want to work with you.
Mhm.
And I'm here to say that that's not true. And my clients understand that that's, part of what we're going to build with them as well, is like that schedule and that offer suite that works for how they want to live their life. Maybe they don't want to take the last week of the month
Mhm.
off, but they have other things that they want to be able to do with their time.
Mhm.
And that was like, sometimes when I tell people that, it helps spark an aha moment, and it's like permission slip to really schedule things in the way that works best for your energy and for the things that you're interested in doing inside and outside of your business.
I love that, because everything you've just said is what I actually do.
Mm,
It's exactly what I do. So,
really?
and I'd actually learned years ago from when I started a hobby, from a business person who said they actually take the last week of every month off. And I went,
Mm,
goodness. And so that's what I do. And I've got it blanked out in my Google Calendar and my scheduling calendar, so no one can book in. And if I go to
yeah.
book in something, I'm like, oh, hang on, nope, nope, no,
Mm-hmm.
that week's off. And it's so amazing. And
Yeah.
what you said about, the courses and everything, that's why I teach what I teach, because I am the expert on my business, but you're the
Mm-hmm.
expert on your business. So I might get information channeled through or something, but I want you to listen to your intuition and your business and go, is that actually right for me?
Yeah.
And man, it's so powerful when you can actually stand up confidently and go, you know what? I'm really grateful that you're a business coach or mentor or whatever. Some of that advice is right, but some's not. And I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think like understanding that the experts
Mhm.
are only an expert in as much as they have the full picture, the information,
Mhm.
and there's no way to give somebody that as much
Mhm.
information as we hold about ourselves and our businesses. There's no way that a business coach or mentor can
Mhm.
have that same level of understanding. And I like how what you just said puts the responsibility too on us
Mhm.
as people who are working with mentors or coaches or consuming content or courses, to really stop and say, how does this feel? Do I want to do this? Do I think this is going to work for how I want to do business?
Mhm.
And really take responsibility
Mhm.
for understanding that we can have great ideas from other people, but it's
Mhm.
on us to decide if we actually want to follow through on those
Mhm.
ideas. I think sometimes it's easy to feel disappointed, like I mentioned, if you take a course or you
Mhm.
work with somebody and it's not exactly what's working in your business, but then that's like putting all of that
Mhm.
power in their hands or in that idea's hands, right? And
Mhm.
not taking that power to yourself to
Mhm.
say like, I have agency here, and
Mhm.
also like checking in and
Mhm.
deciding if I feel aligned with
Mhm.
this idea. When I work with people in a group container or one-to-one, we always start with that, acknowledging that you're the expert in your business. So take the ideas that resonate, and the ones that don't resonate,
Mhm.
throw them away. Like there's no expectation that you're
Mhm.
going to implement or do everything that we talk about.
Mhm.
And it's a collaborative process
Mhm.
as well, which I think is something that I came to value with the coaches that I've worked with later on in my business
Mhm.
career, where I want somebody who's willing to build
Mhm.
something with me, not tell me, from the mountaintop,
Mhm.
do this thing.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's so important. Yes, as we said, they're experts, but when you've got someone that can walk the path with you, and that's what I do. I walk the path with
Mhm.
the person. I'm there. I'm not turning around and going, well, this is the practice that you should do to get your intuition going. It's like, no, what feels right for you? Let's talk about. Okay, so that's actually a different practice. Great, let's go down that road.
Yeah.
Just it's so much more, it just feels so much more loving, like,
Mhm.
absolutely loving.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think it it gives equal power in the
Mm.
relationship as well. And that's something that I've become more and more aware of, is like that power dynamic in the online space, but also just in our larger culture and
Mm.
societies. And really trying to to reframe a power dynamic. That was something that came up for me when I was a classroom teacher as well, and really informed my decision to change what I was doing with my life and energy, because I'm based in the US, and in our education system, there's not a lot of power sharing between teacher and pupil. And again, I didn't know what it was at the time that just didn't feel right to me, but upon reflection, I think that was a big part of it. And I have a 9-year-old daughter. And when my husband and I decided, like, what did we want for her education, we were very intentional in the type of schooling that we found for her. And it's a lovely framework that is, shared decision making. The children are in charge of their own learning, and it really gives her a lot of power that I didn't have as a quiet, introverted
Yeah.
student, a people pleaser. And it's been really healing, actually, for me to watch her go through, her schooling in a way that was completely different than mine. And I think, like, as an adult, what will she carry through, where I had to kind of unravel and unlearn a lot of, you know, and relearn, I guess, trust in myself, and that I could make decisions in my business that I didn't need someone else's, like, approval or direction on. And I think that's been a big part of my life experience, has been just relearning that trust that I lost somewhere along the way. And I'm sure with the creatives that you work with, that's a lot of what you help them access, is that trust in themselves.
Yeah, it is. And that's something I actually had to learn because I was in the healthcare field. So I was the same. There was, like, I was the nurse. So you're the patient. You just, shut up, sit there on the bed and do as I say. And I really had
Yeah.
to learn, like, no, hang on, they have agency as well. And so then it became a real collaborative. And, I made sure that I pushed the doctors and go, actually, can you talk to that patient in English? And
Yeah.
having that kind of environment really emphasized the fact that I needed to have fun in my personal life. So I created that, which I then, once I'd left the healthcare field, I brought into my business. So I'd love to know what you do to make sure that you have fun in your business.
Oh, yeah, I love that question. Well, I think it comes back to continually checking in with myself, and asking, like, does this feel fun? Does this feel aligned? And not only, like, listening to that intuitive
Mhm,
voice, but then taking sometimes uncomfortable action
mm.
based on that intuitive voice, where it might mean that, are you familiar with the Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin?
No.
Okay, so it's a framework for understanding, like, how you respond to obligations. And so I came to her work through, like, I could show up for other people if I had a client or a deadline, or I had promised someone to
Mhm,
do something. I'm going to show up every single
mhm,
time. But then when I wanted to do things for myself, like implement a more regular creative practice just for the fun of it, not for this is going to make me money
mhm,
or things like that, I would really struggle with that. And so through her framework, I came to understand that I respond more strongly to outside
mhm,
expectations than internal expectations. And so the idea is you put in place, um, structures to help you. So if I sign up for a class or a challenge with other people, I'm more likely to actually do the thing that I wanted to do for myself. So I have to kind of, like, understand myself to be able to do that. Um, but like, sometimes following the fun for me is going to mean I made a commitment to someone, but on that day, my energy isn't
mhm,
there to be able to do that. And I
mhm,
think that actually happened when we first
mm,
scheduled our this interview.
mhm,
And then I was ill, and I
mm,
didn't want to come onto here without my
mhm.
full energy. And in the past, I probably would have been like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm well enough.
yeah.
I can do this.
Mhm,
But now I'm much more aware of how I want to show up for people and in the world, and also, like, like more willing to disappoint people, I think, if it's the thing that is going to be best for me.
Mhm.
And so I think there's the two pieces. It's like being aware when things aren't
Mhm.
fun or in alignment, but then it's also like learning to take uncomfortable action
Mhm.
sometimes to bring it back into alignment. Sometimes that can also mean like not working with a client
Mhm.
that I don't think is going to be a fun client to work with.
Yeah.
Um, I've gotten good at referring out to other people in my network who might be a better fit. Um, and I think like just really also when something doesn't go right, or I'm left feeling like a little icky or like churned up after something, taking the time to process that and pinpoint what was it about this experience or about this
Mhm.
project or this client that's leaving me feeling that way, and how can
Mhm.
I take that understanding forward and, not have that situation happen
Mhm.
again.
Yeah, I love that because one of the biggest things for me is energy because people following know that, I've had mental illness, I've had depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
PTSD. And so I needed to really learn about my energy. And that was one of the things that really just changed things and projected my business. And it was
Mhm.
amazing. And so if I'm on a call with someone like, because I do, the free 15-minute discovery calls, and if I'm on the call with them, I check in on my energy level. Is my energy level up here? And is my mind and my body excited? Or is my energy up here, but I'm actually not excited? Or the opposite?
Mm.
Am I excited, but I'm actually drained? Because there's
Yeah.
different ways. Like we think, oh, well, if we're excited, our energy's up here. Not necessarily. And
Mhm.
so it's really tuning into that because, I've been around people that have just drained my energy and you walk away and you're just and then you think, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, they've just signed up for like a 3-month program. Oh no, I've got to work for them. Oh. And it's
Right.
no, you've really got to respect yourself because
Mhm.
yes, we can chase the money because we think, oh my goodness, I've started this business. I've got to get money in. But I can tell you
Yeah,
from experience, it's not worth it. It really is not worth
exactly. Yeah, and I think sometimes it can feel like any client is better than no
it.
client. But like just like you just said, you after you work with a few of those clients that aren't a good fit, and
Mhm.
it's nothing wrong with them, it's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
us, it just is not in alignment.
Mhm.
You realize what it costs
Mhm.
you personally
Mhm.
and energetically to work with somebody who's not in alignment.
Mhm.
Uh, you could have used all of that time and energy working with ideal clients. And I think something I didn't realize is there will always be more clients. If you
Mhm.
are like doing the activities that are going to bring you clients, if you're
Mhm.
marketing, if you're talking to people about your services,
Mhm.
if you're excited about what
Mhm.
it is that you're doing, you're going to attract more clients.
Mhm.
And so part of kind of I guess, maturing as a business
Mhm.
owner. I see this with people. It's like a stage where at first I'll take any client, I'll do anything for
Mhm.
them. I just want to like make some money and test this idea, which I think is a perfectly
Mhm.
beautiful stage as well.
Mhm.
But as you mature as a business owner, you hone in more on like, who is it that I enjoy
Mhm.
working with? What is it that I want to do in my business?
Mhm.
And you learn to discern better like those good fits, whether it's
Mhm.
a client or an offer that you want to make.
Mhm.
And we should feel excited for the offers, because if we're not excited, our ideal client isn't going to be excited. Right.
Yeah.
We have to find it first, and then
Mhm.
it becomes very easy. In my experience, it
Mhm.
becomes much easier to promote and market an offer that I feel 100% in alignment
Mhm.
with than something that I'm at 80% or less, right? Because I think it's what people want to buy. I
Mm.
think people want to buy what we want to be involved in and what we most want to sell and put out into the world.
And that just leads into exactly what I wanted to say because there's a lot of coaches out there who say you've got to create what the client wants.
Mm,
I've done that and it's like, oh, I don't really want to show up for this program again. I don't want to do this. And then when I learned about fun and doing what was right for me, things changed. And you're so
yeah.
right. When you create programs, courses, whatever it is that light you up and you're excited about and you talk about it and you can just see the excitement in your eyes, that transfers over, because I'm so big on energy. When you create from that space, everyone feels it.
Yeah, and you can't fake it. I
Mhm.
can't fake it
Yeah.
anyways. Like, if I'm not excited about something,
Mhm.
I can't pretend to be.
Mhm.
And I don't want to try and
Mhm.
pretend to be. Why
Mhm.
not make it fun? We
Mhm.
could do anything. We can create one of the things I love about building businesses is you're literally creating something out of
Mhm.
nothing, right?
Yep.
And if we can create anything out of nothing, why not create something that
Mhm.
lights us up?
Yes.
Why not make it fun? And it's I want to be very clear, like not every single moment in business building is going to feel fun. There are things
Yes.
that are there are
Yep.
things that are difficult. We stretch. I've
Mhm.
never learned as much about myself. There
Mhm.
were two things that taught me way more about myself than I ever thought possible. One was becoming a mom, and the other was birthing a business, which is basically becoming a parent in another way.
Mhm.
And so, growth can be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
We can come across people or situations that, aren't fun to have to
Mhm.
manage. But I think the goal is to take steps so that everything that we do in our business gets closer and closer
Mhm.
to whatever following the fun means
Mhm.
to each of us as an individual.
Yeah, yeah, I so agree with that. And for me, like I love creating art. I love, being with clients. That's all fun. Yet at the same time, I need to have fun in my personal life. So
Mhm.
yes, I create art, but when I create it, unless it's a specific commission, I create it just for me. It's
Mm.
just for me. And then I go, oh, actually, no, I want to sell that one now. And then I'll go,
Mhm.
here you go. And it's amazing. And for me, what I've needed to do is to actually play with art, because I'm not a traditional artist. So I can't do the traditional drawing and painting, but I still
Mhm.
get my pens or pencils or paint out and just play. And that's what
Yeah.
I play. And that brings fun back in.
And do you find with the artists that you work with, there is pressure during the creative process to make something marketable or make something saleable, and like that there's some tension between like that purpose for art and like art for enjoyment's sake? Or do you find that people that you're working with are already like what you're doing? They're creating the art that lights them up, and then like finding an audience or a market for that art.
That's interesting because I don't actually work with artists.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
an art. No, no, that's quite all right. Excuse me. So I'm an artist, but at this stage, I haven't attracted artists. But I
Mm,
feel that that's probably a direction that will happen. I'll attract the creatives and the artists because I'm out there saying this is me. So, but
mhm,
yeah, for excuse me, for the people that do come in, yeah, it is about, really embracing their business, embracing it and learning that it actually is its own entity. Yes, we birthed it and it's part of us, but it's still its own entity. And I've
yeah.
discovered really, I love how all this like being spiritual works, because I discovered it has its own inner child and it
Mm,
has its own chakras. So for those that don't understand, chakras are energy vortexes within the body, and they can really help us just embrace our intuition, help us in our life. So the business actually has that as well.
I love the thought of the business having its own inner child.
Mm. Yep.
And like what does the inner child in the business
Mm-hmm.
need?
Mm.
And I'm curious, like, do you find that that's real, like, because somebody has created this business and has put part of
Mm.
themselves into it, do you find that the inner child in the business and the inner child of your clients have like a relationship or a dialogue with each other? Are they informed by each other? I would love to hear
That
about that.
Yeah, that actually happens totally, because I actually teach. That's the first step. Is I teach
Hmm.
business women what their business will look like or sound like. So I take them in a visualization, and they can actually find out that, and then they can
Wow.
actually have a dialogue.
I
'Cause
bet
it's
there's a lot of power that comes out of that conversation
oh,
that they're
it's
having with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
It is, it's incredible. Like my business has 6 aspects, actually 6 different things. Like it's got a crone, it's
Mhm.
got a male elder, it's got, a few different aspects. So depending on what I need, that aspect will come through. So I'm
Mhm.
always talking to my business, always, like constantly.
Fascinating.
Mm,
I was in a program one time and it was a conversation around money and business.
mm,
And the person facilitating the conversation was like, talk to your money. And
mm,
like, what does your money need from you?
mhm,
And like, what is it trying to tell you? And how are you treating it? And this
mm,
was in a business context. So
mhm,
like things like revenue
mhm,
and such. But like that was a bit of an aha moment for me
mhm,
because I realized that if I were in a relationship with my
mhm,
money, which was what this facilitator
mhm,
was suggesting, I wasn't treating it very
mhm.
nicely and I wasn't giving it much attention and I
Mhm,
was demanding a lot of it.
mm,
And it really helped me kind of reframe
mm,
that inner voice in my head that was judging different
mm,
aspects in my business to do with money.
mhm,
It helped me see it as like you said, more of a person or a something I could have a conversation with in
mm,
a dialogue and ask it what it needed. And of course, I'm tapping into what I needed to hear
mm,
also about these parts of my business
mm,
and then getting some ahas through the process.
mhm.
And yeah, that was an amazing experience that I had. And it's so cool that you're facilitating
Mm,
even a deeper dive like
mhm.
that with your clients.
Yeah, it's really cool, and what's come through sometimes has been you just sort of look at the person, and you go, "Okay." One, the business came through as a dog.
Mm.
Another one, the business came through as a house, and each room was a different aspect of the business.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
you
Yeah.
like, it's amazing how it can come through, and as I said, mine's got 6 aspects, so 6 different, I say gender, so they do come through as masculine or feminine. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
interesting, like sometimes if I'm sitting here and going back to fun, if I'm sitting here and going, that lovely inner child comes in and goes, "Hello, excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" And it's instantly,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay."
I'm listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and, that's how you can bring fun in, is actually talking to your business and, realizing it does have an energy. There's so many different ways that we can have fun in business.
Mm-hmm. And I love that that playfulness around like having a dialogue, listening to what might come through. And in some of the work I've done with coaches, we've done some similar visualizations, not in the business has an inner child aspect, but like what is this object in the room what does it want to tell you
Mhm,
about this problem that you're having
mhm,
or something? And it's just a way to
mhm.
access a whole different energy and way of looking at things. And it feels fun. Like the first time we did it, I was a little bit like, where are we going with this? But I'm game. I'm
Yeah.
coachable.
Yeah.
I'm willing to try. And then like I think the power too is when you have that image or that idea, even after the session ends, you can go back to that
Mm,
later. And now you have this conduit of
mhm,
relating with that piece
mhm,
or that part of your intuition or
mhm,
yourself that you didn't have that line to
mhm,
before. And so even just a single session like that,
mhm.
I'm sure has lasting effects
Yep.
on your client's ability to tap in.
Mm. It does, and, excuse me, and whenever, they've done the session, they go, "Oh, look, I'm really struggling to talk to my business." I go, "Okay, have you got some Oracle tarot cards next to you?" "Yeah."
Mhm.
"Okay, pull a card." So they'll pull a card and I go, "Okay, so what colour's on there?" And they're like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And then I just get them talking, and then suddenly they've
Yeah.
realised the business is coming through that way.
I
Mm,
think cards can be so powerful.
mm,
I have a group for creatives right now. And we do a monthly creative call where it's just like, instead of like a business focus or a mastermind or a coaching call, it's just like, we're going to be together for 45 minutes. We're going to create anything that fills your creative cup. So like, it can be someone came on and they were like applying makeup with a new technique. And she's like, this is what my creativity wants to do today. And it's like, great, it's all welcome. But today we had a call and I pulled some cards. There's a deck that I love. I've got it right here, actually. It's called the Creative Alchemy Oracle Deck by Sarah Greenman. She's an artist, a playwright, a poet, a social activist. She's amazing. And she took her art and created these cards. And so like pulling the cards and then talking it through like with the creatives is always such like it's wonderful for me because I get insights into my own process and business, but it also is amazing how it helps them to tap into that as well. And we don't do that every time. Like today it was just like what I felt like I wanted to spend my creative time doing, and I invited them into that as well. So yeah, anything that can help us understand what is fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's such a big thing because, we grow up, we become adults, we've got responsibilities, and we're like, hang on, am I actually having fun? Because when you have fun in your business is so much more exciting, and people feel that. And it
Yeah.
really does make a difference, where you can tell the difference between the people that have fun in their business and the people that don't. And it's just, you just feel that energy, and you can even see it in the words that they use.
Yeah.
People like us that have fun, you can see there's a difference in the words.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Language has its own energy as well,
yeah,
doesn't it? Yeah.
it does. Yeah. Yep. And I just want to end on that beautiful note. I cannot thank you enough, Audra. This has been an amazing conversation, like just
Well,
absolutely incredible. And for anyone watching, please check the description, because I've actually got how you can find Audra everywhere on the internet, and I'll make sure everywhere. And I'm actually going to get Audra back for my Arty Thursday, because now I want to then really talk about the art side.
I would love that. And thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you about these things and just connect around these really powerful ideas and practices.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. And for anyone watching, please don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that amazing stuff that
Thumbs
actually
up.
supports us
All the
beautiful
things.
small business.